Hello and welcome to the Unleash Your Gifts class. My name is Isabella Viskupova and I'm the founder of the Gentle Trauma Release Institute. In this class, we'll be talking about how to best connect with your gifts, how to access your gifts and talents. And before we dive into the class, let's make sure we're all at the same page. When referring to gifts in this class, what I'll have in mind is your mixture of talents, skills, abilities, knowledge, experience, be it professional or personal, and your personality traits. Now, when it comes to gifts, many of us have a desire or an inspiration to use them for something good, for something meaningful. But the truth is that not all gifts will be right to build your practice or business around. And with some of them, you might not even want to. When it comes to building a career or a practice, we are ultimately looking for something that will be sustainable, both from a professional business perspective, but also sustainable personally for you, for your life. That way, your work will make you happy and you'll feel fulfilled and motivated to move forward with it in the long run. That brings us to the Japanese concept of ikigai, or the philosophy of living with a sense of purpose. It is about our reason for being. And it's possible to apply this philosophy to one's professional life as well. How do we achieve that? Well, according to the Ikigai philosophy, it's when we simultaneously do what we're good at, do what we love, do what the world needs, and do what we can be paid for. When we do something that we're good at and that we love at the same time, it evokes passion. We feel on fire, wanting to do more of what we love. And when we do something that we love and the world needs that at the same time, we feel like there's a mission behind our work, a mission, a purpose, a calling that is bigger than us. If the world needs what we have, what we know and love, and if we can be also paid for it, then, and only then, can our gifts become a vocation or a profession. But even then, you want to feel the calling to do what you love as your profession. For example, I love cooking as well as styling food. And I do believe the world would benefit so much from being fed with delicious, nutritious, and beautifully presented food. But I don't see it as my calling. And hence, I wouldn't pursue it as my profession because I wouldn't feel fulfilled. I wouldn't feel on purpose, alive in the long run. The bottom line is a sustainable career or a sustainable practice has to tick all the 4 areas of the Ikigai concept. Your zone of genius, what is that? Well, that is when your gifts marry with the love for what you do. This is when your talents, skills, abilities, knowledge, experience, personality traits allow you to do something well and you love doing it at the same time. Finding the intersection between these 2 areas is where you want to begin, even before you start considering if it leads to something tangible from a business perspective. And that's what we're going to focus on here, finding your zone of genius. It's not always easy to find your zone of genius. In fact, every time I think of this concept, a person's zone of genius, the picture of my daughter comes to mind. Sophie, my daughter, used to have this habit when she was younger of looking deep into my eyes and describing their color to me. She would say things like, "Your eyes are really green, and it's a very pretty green. And guess what?" she would say, "There is a golden circle going around your pupil." How come? I've never seen anyone with a golden circle in their eyes. This is such a great metaphor for recognizing your own zone of genius. My eyes may have a golden circle around the pupil, but you have your own version of a golden circle, shining its light brightly on everyone around you, if you recognize it and let it shine. Granted, it can be difficult to see it. Sometimes it's impossible. It's impossible to look at your eyes with your own eyes without changing something about the way you look. You need a mirror, a photograph, another person, or something that helps you look from a more optimal vantage point. Let me now walk you through 3 tools that will be helpful in finding your own zone of genius. The idea is that you go through all 3 of them in the order they will be presented. I will first walk you through the Unleash Your Gifts workbook. Then we'll move on to the Client Success Tracker. And finally, the 3 Secret Lessons playbook. As I said before, this will get you started on identifying your own combination of gifts, talents, skills, so that you can bring them to the world and express them through your work and through your offerings. These 3 tools will allow you to explore the different areas where we usually find our genius. We'll start by looking at the Unleash Your Gifts workbook. And the first part focuses on your previous career. That's an obvious one, the previous jobs we had or the businesses we had, and mostly the skills or knowledge that we acquired here, that these jobs or positions or businesses allowed us to acquire or develop. List even your very first jobs, your very first business projects, no matter how small or significant. To make this easier for you, I'll try to give you some examples for each of the 3 templates that you'll be using to find your genius. So let's start with this Unleash Your Gifts workbook, specifically part 1, previous career. So here is something that one of my students wrote in this part of the template. She said, in high school, I was a lifeguard, and she learned how to lead big teams, work with local businesses, manage work and school, stick with something and not give up. At that time, she says there were very few women lifeguards. And so she learned how she could do anything she set her mind to. She also had a college job where she worked in retail for a plus-size women's store. And here's what she learned there. She learned how insecure we are with how we look, but certain women are confident in their size and not so cautious with what they are wearing or if their arms are bare. My student learned here how to be confident in the workplace, even when her size didn't align with the so-called standard of the culture she lived in. Now, just look at these 2 small examples. And I already see someone who could potentially have the gift of helping others be more confident, very possibly in the workplace or in business, especially women, because both of these students' examples have to do with women. She could support others, say women, by showing them how they can accomplish what they put their minds to. And these 2 examples are purposefully chosen so they're not too glorious, because I would like you to understand that even simple things can reflect your gifts. Now, to continue, and we're still on the career part, here are a few other examples. I built a successful antique, refinished, and vintage business in a small booth at the antique mall. I learned how to find and build things people would pay for. Another example, I worked for an association of freelance writers. I started as a secretary, then advanced to coordinator of marketing, marketing manager, education manager, director of education, and finally, director of membership sales. I learned how to work with difficult bosses. I learned how to advance my ideas and get credit. I mastered asking for promotions. Again, I see the same pattern emerging. This is the same student, someone who has learned how to stand up for herself in the workplace, how to be assertive in the workplace, and advance her career with confidence. She learned how to negotiate on her behalf, and so she could easily do these things for someone else. Let's look at part 2 of the Unleash Your Gifts template, additional acquired gifts. These would be the credentials you hold, the trainings, the workshops and courses you've taken. And again, you want to notice what skills, knowledge you were able to develop here or hone, get better at. And by the way, if a particular section doesn't come easy to you, or if there's really nothing you have to say there, skip it. Fill in the sections that are relevant to you. There's plenty of material to get your creativity and reflections going. In this category, good examples would include a course in bookkeeping, a training in Facebook advertising, a dog training course, Thai cooking class, day trading online course, face reading workshop. You get the idea. Or some more formal kinds of training. Maybe you have degrees under your belt in social work, journalism, cognitive behavioral therapy, physics, or maybe you're a certified yoga teacher. If there are articles, books, and presentations you've given, then put that down too in this section. There's another page dedicated to that. And you also want to notice what kind of topics these articles, books, presentations focused on. Part number 3 of the Unleash Your Gifts workbook is life experiences or life experience gifts. Your zone of genius may lie in your life experience and what you learned or mastered thanks to your life experience. This is where we're looking at what challenges in life have you tackled and quote unquote survived successfully. But also, how did you do that? Have you achieved something that at the time seemed impossible? And if so, again, think of how you managed to do that. Is there perhaps an area of your life where you managed to beat the odds? How? Now, the items falling into this category will probably include also the very difficult situations and experience you went through in life. And I just want to invite you to be gentle with yourself here. This could be growing up with an alcoholic parent, having a chronic illness or condition, going bankrupt, losing a friend or a pet, being in an accident, going through divorce. Understand that I'm not promoting here the view that you wouldn't be who you are today if it weren't for the bad experiences you went through. I sometimes hear that, and it's often not particularly helpful when it comes to looking at the difficult experiences we had to go through in life. Of course, not everything in life has to be traumatizing. So, in this category, maybe it seemed impossible to you that you'd run a business one day, and then you did, or that you would ever get out of debt, and then you did. Maybe you didn't think that you would get pregnant, heal something in you, physically or emotionally, or master a skill, but then you did. Maybe you quit smoking, managed to retire early. Put everything down, the things that seem big or small. Part number 4, natural gifts. And this is what people typically think of when they hear the word gift, talents and abilities that maybe you didn't have to work so hard for, or that come easy and naturally for you. A good way of identifying the natural gifts is to ask yourself, is there a problem that you cracked just by trying to figure it out? How did you do that? What makes you go bonkers when you see it because you know there is a better way? Where in life do people ask you, how do you do that? Or how did you do that? Where in life do people tell you, I wish I could do that? Where do they compliment you? Where did you perhaps help yourself or someone else when a solution wasn't available, but you figured it out? And finally, what do people usually pick your brain about? That's also a good one to find your natural gifts and talents. Now, the final part of the Unleash Your Gifts workbook is passion gifts. And these can be items that you maybe are not even the absolute best at, but you simply love doing them. Here are some ways of finding out what these are for you. Ask yourself, if you could study anything and be paid well for it, what would it be? Look at what category of books, programs, courses, or trainings you have invested in the past 5 to 10 years. What kind of learnings did your money mostly go to? If you could write a book or books, what would it be about? You can go even as far as naming some chapters. That would be wonderful. Let's now go to the second resource. This is our Client Success Tracker. Now, this tool is excellent because another way of defining your genius is to look at the people whose life is in some respect better because of you. And you will be invited to recall as many people as you can and then reflect on the ways that you helped them. And this help might have come in different forms. For instance, it could have been something you said, an inspirational story, sharing an observation or insight. It could have been a piece of advice that you gave them. Maybe you taught them a skill, or information you shared could have been helpful to their situation. Maybe you helped them solve a problem, or you took them through an intervention and that eventually led to solving the problem. Did you recommend something and that changed their life? Or did you help them with implementation or application of theoretical knowledge? Finally, it could have been just the kind of support you offered. The people you help and that you will be listing in this success tracker don't have to be just your past clients or somebody who paid you for your services. Let's think a bit outside the box here. List anyone whose life you've touched in a positive way. This could be a friend, a neighbor, an acquaintance, a colleague, or a random stranger. If their life improved as a result of them crossing paths with you, jot it down. You can even use yourself as an example. If you were able to help yourself in some way, then put yourself into that client success tracker. Now, we will not stop at listing the people you've helped. What we want to do is, again, identify some patterns here. So we will be asking for each and every one of the clients you'll be listing 3 questions. What was this person's issue, challenge, pain, problem? Question number 2, what specific help did you provide? So was it an advice, intervention, solution, teaching, your way of being? Be as specific as you can here. And finally, what result or what outcome, win, relief did they get thanks to your help? I'll give you some examples here again to make life easier for you. This was a real client of mine, by the way, a long time ago. Her name was Diane. Diane's issue or challenge at the time was that when she came to me, she completed yet another training to become a coach. But instead of feeling more confident, better about herself, feeling as though she finally was the expert that she was longing to become, she felt worse, actually. She didn't know what was wrong with her. She felt defeated, incapable, desperate, sad. She blamed herself for being a failure and for never doing anything practical, real with her business, for never moving forward with her coaching business, just taking one training after another. Now, as for question number 2, what specific help did I provide? Well, first of all, I gave Diane a piece of advice. I told her to pick one area of expertise, one area of life where she feels that she can be of help to her clients, and then build an offering in just that one area. I suggested that we can widen her repertoire later, but for now she has to sort of pick one horse and ride it. Otherwise, she'll procrastinate forever. And that's what she did. Diane created a little coaching package that was designed to help women go through menopause naturally. And that was the result. That would be the answer to question number 3. Now, I actually helped Diane develop that package, but I didn't include that in the workbook because I just wanted to make it obvious and clear to you that even seemingly little things count, such as a great piece of advice that you have given to somebody and it was impactful. What we're after in these finding your genius exercises is identifying, I call them your genius breadcrumbs, the things that you do, the things that you're good at, and that often you don't even notice because your genius leaves behind clues or breadcrumbs, and it creates a trail that we're trying to follow through these exercises. Now, another way to figure out where that breadcrumb trail leads in your particular case, you want to reflect on at least 10 people that you've helped using those 3 questions. What was this person's problem? What specific help did you provide? And what was the result? Ultimately, you want to see what these case studies have in common. You want to observe and reflect on those 3 questions. What issue am I good at solving? Which of my interventions are efficient and powerful? What results am I good at providing for my clients? I'll just repeat this. These don't have to be your formal clients. This can be your neighbor or your colleague. For example, here's what one of my students put in her client success tracker. This student had a colleague, Deb, let's call her Deb, and this colleague was hugely in debt. And here's how my student described the situation. Deb was getting calls at work and it was affecting her mood. She was in tears a lot and stressed. I called her into my office to see what was going on. She was in deep debt, hasn't paid her rent for months, and the landlord was going to evict her. She saw no way out. Now, here's what my student did. She said in her client success tracker, I asked Deb to print out a calendar and we created a budget for her to see how she could get caught up. I then called the landlord and told him what we were working through and negotiated a prepayment plan. What was the result? Deb followed the plans, stuck to them, paid everyone back, caught up, and excelled in her business and personal life. She did not get evicted. Now, the patterns I notice here when it comes to my students' gift or gifts here are helping someone in crisis when they see no way out. I see the gift of a rational approach to problem solving, an emotional stability and comfort, the ability to sit down and craft an actual way out plan. It looks like she also has the gift of being someone else's advocate and negotiating on their behalf. Certainly great negotiating skills. Now, I would love for you to do the same. Look at your 10 clients and identify your own patterns or the patterns of your gifts. Now let's look at the third tool, the 3 Secret Lessons Playbook. You will be invited to write down 3 lessons you learned in the different areas of life. For example, health, romantic relationships, money, pain management, leadership, animals, personal growth. Now, this playbook invites you to reflect on quote unquote secret lessons. And what is meant by it is that these lessons are secret in the sense that most people don't seem to know about them, or you didn't know about them for a long time, and they turned out to be really important to you when you learned them. Or you did know about those lessons, but things shifted for you only when you started to apply them. And this can be a lot of fun if you let it. For example, a student of mine offered these 3 secret lessons in the physical fitness category. She said, number 1, being active doesn't have to be miserable. It can be a walk in the park or a photography adventure. Lesson number 2, if you turn off the television, you will find yourself more active, creative, productive, happy. Lesson 3, small steps lead to big results. Let's look at one final example from the 3 Secret Lessons Playbook. For the conflict resolution category, another student said, don't be afraid to pick up the phone, meet face to face. It goes much further than an email. Lesson 2, admit when you are wrong, hold steady in your beliefs, operate with honor and respect, and don't let emotions get in the way of a healthy conversation. And her third lesson here is that conflict is an opportunity to build a relationship. What is the purpose of the 3 Secret Lessons Playbook? Well, we're looking to find areas that were really fun for you to think about. Maybe it was easy or fascinating for you to find answers in some of those categories. Maybe it was effortless to gather your secret lessons in the money area or animals and pets area. Maybe some of these areas evoked a sense of passion in you as you are gathering your lessons. And there will certainly be other areas where you felt just the opposite. It was boring to think about them or just hard. Final thoughts. It's not always straightforward to see your gifts. Sitting down and going through the 3 resources presented here is a wonderful place to start because it will give you a lot of ideas and insights into your gifts. You might need another person's eyes to help you recognize your gifts. In that case, share these resources with a trusted friend or a coach and let them give you feedback. However, I would suggest that even in cases when you do that, still sit down by yourself, reflect by yourself. Don't just automatically run to somebody else to see you. And the final thought is recognizing your gift or your gifts is just the beginning. It will allow you to move forward in a sustainable way because your work will be focused around your genius. That is things you love, but also you're good at. Having said that, bear in mind that it also takes some confidence and trust in your gifts to be able to let your genius express itself in tangible ways. All right, at this point, I'll wish you good luck with the 3 resources that are available to you: the Unleash Your Gifts workbook, the Client Success Tracker, and the 3 Secret Lessons Playbook. Go through them, take your time, enjoy, observe, reflect, and I hope to talk to you and connect with you really soon. Bye for now.